Do you ever wake up already tired? Not because you didn't sleep, but because you don't know why you're doing all this. Most people don't realize this is happening to them. They just call it burnout, or stress, or another long week. But what they're really feeling isn't physical exhaustion. It's something deeper. It's waking up, doing everything you're supposed to do, and still feeling empty. Studying, working, improving yourself. Yet somewhere in the background, a quiet question keeps returning. What's the point of all this? The most dangerous question is not, what do I want? It's, why am I even doing this? Most people stay busy enough so they never have to answer it. Now imagine this. On a small island in Okinawa, elderly men and women in their 80s and 90s wake up before sunrise. They stretch, they garden, they cook, they laugh with friends. Not because they have to, but because they want to. They don't dread the day. They welcome it, not chasing productivity, not obsessed with success. They simply have a reason. In most countries, retirement is the dream. In Okinawa, stopping is the danger. Because when you lose your reason to wake up, you don't die immediately. You just slowly fade, even if you're still breathing. This video is not about motivation hacks. It's not about working harder. And it's not about finding your passion overnight. It's about a simple Japanese idea that explains why modern life feels so empty and how having a reason can quietly change the way you wake up every morning. If you understand this, you may never look at your life the same way again. Let's begin. Most people think they're tired because they work too much. But that's not the real reason. There are people who work long hours and still feel alive. And there are people with easy lives who feel completely drained. So the problem isn't effort. It's direction. We live in the most comfortable time in human history. Food is easy. Entertainment is endless. Opportunities are everywhere. Yet anxiety is rising. Depression is rising. And a quiet sense of emptiness follows people into their 20s, 30s, even 40s. Not because life is hard, but because it feels meaningless. Here's what usually happens. You grow up being told what to chase: good grades, a stable job, a respectable life. So you chase it, and for a while it works. You feel productive, busy, important. But then something strange happens. You reach the milestone, and nothing changes inside. You don't feel fulfilled. You just feel numb. That numbness is dangerous. Because when pain is loud, you respond to it. But when emptiness is quiet, you just learn to live with it. You scroll more. You distract yourself. You stay busy. Anything to avoid asking the question underneath it all: why am I doing this every day? Psychologically, humans can endure almost anything if they feel it has meaning. But without meaning, even comfort becomes exhausting. That's why burnout doesn't always come from overwork. It comes from waking up every morning and feeling like your life is on repeat with no deeper reason behind it. And here's the part most people never realize. You don't lose meaning all at once. You lose it slowly. One ignored passion at a time. One postponed dream at a time. 1 year spent living someone else's version of success. Until one day, you wake up tired for no clear reason. This is the invisible crisis of modern life. Not failure, not laziness, not weakness, but living without a reason that feels yours. And this is exactly why what we saw earlier, those elders waking up with energy, even at the end of life, matters so much. Because they're not chasing happiness. They're living with purpose. And to understand how they do that, we have to look at where this idea comes from and why it changes everything. The Okinawa mystery. Why some people never retire on a small island called Okinawa? Something unusual is happening. People live longer here than almost anywhere else on Earth. Not just longer, but better. They don't spend their final years sitting still, waiting for time to pass. They stay active, mentally sharp, emotionally connected, and most importantly, they stay useful. In Okinawa, there isn't a strong word for retirement the way we use it. People don't talk about stopping. They talk about continuing at a slower pace with more intention, gardening, teaching younger generations, helping neighbors, meeting friends daily, not because they're forced to, but because they still feel needed. This is the part that feels strange to modern ears. In many countries, the goal is to escape work, to finally rest, to finally do nothing. But in Okinawa, doing nothing for too long is considered dangerous. Because when people stop contributing, they don't just lose structure, they lose identity. Researchers notice something important. Yes, diet matters. Yes, movement matters. Yes, stress levels are lower. But none of those fully explain what's happening. There are other places with healthy food, other places with exercise, other places with warm weather. Yet Okinawa stands apart. Why? Because people here wake up with a reason to move, a reason to meet others, a reason to show up. And that reason quietly protects them, not just from illness, but from emptiness. Think about that for a moment. Most people don't fear death itself. They fear becoming irrelevant, useless, forgotten, disconnected. In Okinawa, that fear is softened because life always has a role for you, even at 90, even at 100. This flips a dangerous belief many of us carry, that rest will save us, that comfort will heal us, that one day, when we finally stop, we'll feel whole. But what if stopping is exactly what drains us? What if energy doesn't come from rest alone, but from having a reason to wake up in the first place? This idea has a name, a simple word that quietly explains why some people age with peace, while others feel lost long before old age arrives. And once you understand what it really means, you start seeing your own life differently. What Ikigai really means? It comes from two words, Iki, meaning life, and Gai, meaning value or worth. So at its core, Ikigai simply means a reason for being, a reason to wake up, a reason to keep going, a reason life feels worth living. This idea became widely known through the book Ikigai, written by Héctor García and Francesc Miralles, after they spent years studying the lives of Okinawa's elders. But here's the important part. Ikigai is often misunderstood. Online, you've probably seen it as a diagram, 4 circles overlapping, what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, what you can be paid for. That model is helpful, but it's not the full truth, because Ikigai is not always grand. It's not always profitable, and it's not always dramatic. For many people in Okinawa, their Ikigai is simple: tending a garden, teaching a skill, caring for family, meeting friends every morning. Small things, done with presence and consistency. That's what keeps them alive inside. Here's the shift most people miss. Ikigai is not something you find once and then keep forever. It changes, it evolves, it adapts as you do. Trying to discover your Ikigai all at once often leads to overthinking and doing nothing. Instead, Ikigai reveals itself through action, through living, through engagement, through paying attention to what quietly gives your day meaning, not what looks impressive, not what sounds successful, but what makes you feel useful, connected, and alive. Let this sink in. Your Ikigai doesn't have to impress anyone. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't need to be optimized. It just needs to be real. And once you understand this, another idea from the book starts to matter even more. Because Ikigai isn't only about why you live, it's also about how you live each day. That's where the concept of flow comes in. Flow, work, and quiet joy. There's a moment many people rarely experience anymore. A moment where you're so absorbed in what you're doing that time disappears. No checking your phone, no worrying about the future, no replaying the past, just full attention. Psychologists call this state flow. In Okinawa, this state isn't treated as something rare or special. It's woven into daily life. Elders tend their gardens for hours. Craftsmen repeat the same movement thousands of times. Teachers show up every day, long after they could have stopped, not chasing excitement, not chasing novelty, simply being present. Here's the part that challenges modern thinking. Most people believe happiness comes after achievement. Finish the degree, get the job, reach the goal. Then you'll relax, then you'll enjoy life. But the people studied in Ikigai live by a different rhythm. They don't separate work and joy. They turn what they do into something worth being fully present for. Flow doesn't come from doing something impressive. It comes from doing one thing, with care. Cooking slowly, cleaning mindfully, teaching patiently, practicing a skill without rushing the outcome. This is why Ikigai isn't about chasing passion. It's about creating meaning inside the life you already have. Most people rush through their days trying to arrive somewhere better. But what if the real secret is learning how to stay? Think about your own life. When was the last time you were so focused that you forgot to check the time? What were you doing? That moment, quiet, simple, unremarkable, is closer to Ikigai than most people realize. And yet many people struggle to experience this kind of presence. Not because they're incapable, but because something keeps pulling them away. Fear, comparison, pressure. And that brings us to the hardest part of this conversation. Why most people never find their Ikigai. Most people don't struggle to find their Ikigai because they're lazy. They struggle because they're afraid, not of failure, but of choosing a life that doesn't make sense to others. From a young age, we're taught to measure ourselves. Grades, titles, money, status. So we build lives that look right from the outside, even when they feel wrong on the inside. Here's the problem. Ikigai is rarely impressive at first. It's usually small, quiet, uncertain. And choosing something meaningful over something impressive feels risky. Another trap is waiting for clarity. People tell themselves, once I'm sure, I'll act. But meaning doesn't work that way. Clarity doesn't come before action. It comes because of action. You don't think your way into purpose. You move your way into it. Ikigai doesn't remove struggle. It gives struggle a direction. The same hard day feels different when you know why you're enduring it. That's why modern life feels so draining. Not because it asks too much, but because it asks too much without telling us why. And the moment you stop waiting for certainty, Ikigai starts showing up, quietly, through how you live each day. How Ikigai is lived. At this point, it's important to slow down, because Ikigai is not something you suddenly figure out. It's something you begin to live into. The people we've been talking about didn't redesign their lives overnight. They didn't chase clarity. They didn't wait for confidence. They focused on daily alignment. Small actions, repeated consistently. They stayed active, not extreme workouts, just daily movement. They ate lightly. They rested well. They reduced unnecessary stress, not to optimize life, but to make it sustainable. Most importantly, they stayed connected. They had people who expected them to show up. People they helped. People who helped them back. Purpose grows fastest when it's tied to something beyond yourself. Here's a simple way to think about Ikigai. If an activity gives you a sense of usefulness, a sense of connection, and a sense of calm satisfaction, you're close. Not perfect, not complete, but close. You don't need a dramatic life change. You need slightly better days, stacked gently over time. That's how Ikigai forms, quietly, naturally, without pressure. And once you understand this, the final question becomes clear. What happens when you stop chasing happiness and start living with meaning instead? How to start living your Ikigai. Let's make this real. Ikigai doesn't begin with a big decision. It begins with small experiments. Here's a simple process you can actually follow. Step 1. Reduce the noise before you add anything. Most people can't hear what matters because their life is too loud. Before asking, what is my Ikigai? Ask this. What drains me every day that I've normalized? Too much scrolling. Too many obligations that mean nothing. Too many expectations that aren't yours. Start by removing one unnecessary drain. Not everything, just one. Energy is the foundation of meaning. Step 2. Notice what gives quiet energy. Ikigai doesn't usually feel exciting at first. It feels calm. Pay attention to moments where time passes gently. You feel useful. You don't need validation. Write them down. Not what impresses people, what feels right when no one is watching. That's data. Step 3. Act before you're certain. Don't wait for clarity. Choose one small action connected to what you noticed. Help someone. Practice a skill. Create something simple. Show up consistently. No announcement. No identity change. Just action. Meaning grows after movement. Step 4. Connect it to something beyond you. Ikigai strengthens when it's not only about you. Ask, who does this help? A person, a group, a community. Purpose accelerates when contribution is involved. Step 5. Build a gentle routine, not discipline, not grind. A rhythm you don't resist, same time, same place, low pressure. Ikigai lives in repetition, not intensity. Step 6. Let it evolve. Don't lock yourself in. Your Ikigai today is not a prison sentence. It will change as you grow. If something stops giving energy, listen. Meaning is allowed to move. If you follow this process, you won't find your Ikigai overnight, but something better will happen. Your days will start to feel lighter. Your effort will feel directed, and waking up won't feel so heavy anymore. At this point, you might be thinking about a diagram you've seen online. 4 circles. What you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, what you can be paid for. This diagram didn't originate as a strict rule in Japan, but it's a useful modern lens if you use it gently. The mistake most people make is trying to fill in all 4 circles at once. That creates pressure, and pressure kills curiosity. Here's a better way to use it. Not as a destination, but as a directional compass. How to apply the diagram without overthinking. Start with 1 circle. What do you enjoy doing even when nobody is watching? Then notice the 2nd circle. What are you naturally improving at because you keep showing up? Only later, much later, do the other circles begin to form. Where this helps someone else, where it might support you financially. In Okinawa, most people didn't start with money. They started with usefulness. The rest followed. You don't need all 4 circles to overlap. You just need 2 to begin. Over time, as you stay active, connected, and consistent, those circles slowly move closer together. Not because you forced them, but because you lived into them. The right question to ask not, what's my perfect Ikigai? But which circle am I exploring right now? That question keeps you moving without overwhelming you. Used this way, the diagram doesn't trap you. It guides you. Listening is good, but action is better. As we wrap up, here are the 3 most actionable ideas. First, stay active, gently. Not intense workouts, just daily movement you don't resist. A walk, stretching, cleaning, gardening. Movement isn't a task, it's part of living. Second, do one thing slowly and fully. 1 meal, 1 conversation, 1 small task. No rushing, no multitasking. Presence is where meaning begins. Third, be useful to someone. Help 1 person. Teach something small. Show up consistently. Purpose grows fastest when it's shared. You don't need to find your Ikigai. You let it form through small actions repeated with care. Which idea resonated most with you? Drop it in the comments below. If this gave you something to think about, hit like and subscribe. Choose your next step. See you in the next video.